Alright, well, this week we have 3 packages, all of which showed up early, I guess. We'll begin with this top one. This should be the Taboo Charming Mother Volume 1, which was the only one missing from last week. Yeah. Standing on the side this time because I want to intercept the receipt for it. But whatever. Anyways, we got that, and if you wanted to see them all together, oh look, there's all 6 of them. I think there's only 6. Ooh. But let's get here. So, you know, that's a smile. The top is up here, and you can see this is also a UPS package. So, you know, I had to rip the off there. I was going to say the Prince of Smiles, but that's the Price of Smiles. Smiles not being a reference to the Amazon Smile. Let's actually put price on top there. And before we go to that, I got a Wandersong from Limited Run Games. I don't remember what this game was about, but I was kind of curious about it. It looked kind of neat. And I don't remember any of what I actually thought was neat about it. So, beginning with the Price of Smiles. They look like a bunch of small characters. I don't know what to make. 2 orphans on opposite sides of a horrifying world. War, sorry. Are these 2? It's whites versus blacks. It's like Cass. I don't know. We have audio. Looks like Japanese with English subtitles. Region A. 12 episodes on 2 discs, and their special features include opening, closing animation, clean opening, clean closing, Hentai trailers. You know, pretty straightforward. So, we'll get on the inside of this edition. Maybe it's not those characters, maybe it's these 2 in the middle. I do not know what to make of this. So one side singers and the other one's shooters, and they're both on different sides of a horrifying world. She's just a princess. Are those mechas in the background? Those are mechas. So maybe one side uses singing to control mechas and the other one just shoots? I don't know. This is Magical Girl Spec-Ops Asuka. Kind of looks interesting. Magical Girl themed, right? And I guess there was actually a sexy booby under there. Ish. I mean, it's kind of dark. Maybe there's the vague impression of an impression, but I don't know. I'm mostly just thinking, for some reason this feels a little more fuzzy than I would have expected. I think that's the same person. Yeah. You can tell because of the red valve thing, which I can't actually see, and it's not valve. From the studio behind, and I can't read that, and I'm not going to bother. Special features, Texas opening and ending. Region A. Looks like this one has an English dub. From the studio behind Blink, the battles still find her. I know it's not actually saying that combination. Ooh, different cover. That one's pretty. The other one looks like you would have a better idea of the anime, but this one's just like, ooh, yeah, I could use artwork like that on the walls. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I really don't know what to make of these characters. They look very Magical Girl-esque. You would assume that Okay, that one is a big version of that. Is she an important character? She looks like a decolored version, like a not contrast, a decolorized version of Sakuya? Why am I having trouble remembering the name of the maid from Toho? Anyways, last but not least, we have Dragon Ball Super DVDs and Blu-rays Part 10, and with a Goku in a form that I know the name of, that I am not going to mention in case you're one of the handful of people that are aware of what Dragon Ball is and you don't know what that means, what this means. Let's just say that I'm opening the DVDs and Blu-rays and stick it at that. Still haven't watched Part 9 with my friend. He was thinking we were going to do that, but we only finished Season 3 Part 1 of My Hero Academia, so he definitely can keep going with that. So I guess it will be interesting to see what he chooses to do this Friday, because he may choose to mix things up a little bit. But at least we're not switching between dub and sub like we were with watching Naruto sub and then everything else dubbed, I guess. Consistency is kind of nice. And I will have an interesting consistency discussion thing in the talking of watch stuff. Region A, English dub, you know, kind of all expected. The Tournament Power, well, I guess it doesn't come to an end in the previous thing. We've got 2 discs with Boring Guy, who kind of looked neat, but then it was just like, the more they kind of drew him doing nothing, the less I cared. At least with like Frieza, you're like, oh geez, they're really making it where I hate that guy. I want to see him bopped in the schnooks. Or something like that. As you can see, the internals of the DVD are kind of similar. Similar artwork, although... yeah. Anyways. All I have to do is get all of these back in their respective slip covers, which apparently I cannot do as 1.5-handed as I thought. But here's this week's anime DVD collection update. So I think last week I speculated I would watch a certain Magical Index Season 3 first, and I ended up choosing Zombieland Saga first. And so far, between the two of those, I have to say I think this was definitely the better choice to go with first. It's fun. I mean, I've heard of some people that didn't like it, and I didn't get a chance to talk to them. They were maybe a little drunk and or high, maybe both at the same time, I'm not sure. And so the conversation wasn't about that, and I try not to interfere in that conversation. It was me with a different group of people that are actually from the local area on VR chat. But, you know, I digress. You know, they didn't like it, and I didn't get to find out why, but for me, it was fun for a couple of reasons. First of all, it starts okay. It's not the strongest beginning I could think of, but it's still pretty great. Because, you know, it could have been like... Well, I don't know. I kind of felt like I had a vague idea, but it's nothing that I would detract points for this. Even though I don't really keep track of points. But first episode had a shakiness to it, but it kind of worked fine. Because it introduces the idea of our main character, and all the other characters are zombies, and... I mean, she's a zombie too, but, you know, she doesn't realize she's a zombie alongside everybody else being zombies, and for some reason she's the only conscious person that thinks she's not a zombie but has to realize she is a zombie surrounded by a bunch of shambling zombies. They introduce Manager, and for some reason he just works. He's always yelling at the characters. Not always. In fact, the show's actually pretty clever about making sure that if he's not yelling at them, it's actually, it just works for what he is, because he just feels deranged, off the rails, not necessarily dangerous, just demented, but a kind of demented that you're kind of curious to see where it's going. Is there a plan there? Because it doesn't feel like there is, but at the same time, this thing that shouldn't have worked, and It's not like he's presented as a genius, it's just he's presented as being entertaining. And when they finally do give the other zombie characters personalities, which is really quick, okay, so, you know, I'm trying to evaluate what I want to talk about based on, does it happen real close to the beginning, like it better happen in first episode or something like that. They introduce, you know, a wide variety of personalities, and since this is kind of presented as an idol show, there's some worry that, you know, if you watch this, it could just turn into stereotypical idol thing, which can be kind of entertaining. It can be a very underdog story, but it turns out this isn't really an underdog story. In fact, it kind of begins more as a parody of the ideas, playing it straight at the same time. And that causes it to have some interesting, goofy ideas that work surprisingly well for where it is, and at the same time, the cast of characters is actually pretty good. Because usually, while you have distinct people in idol shows, I guess, they tend to not be that different per se. And this one already presents its characters as actually coming from a very wide variety of places. There's only 2 characters I would say are actually similar, and they're kind of only similar in the same way that a normal idol anime would normally be like, because they've got different personalities, reasonings, opinions, whatever. But everybody else just comes from wildly different places, so much that the show always feels like it has something it's playing with and doing stuff with. And it doesn't really make any of them all that bad. I mean, the other idol girls that are kind of your stereotypical personalities are kind of the weakest, but even they're not too bad. They would be really good in a standard idol show, but this show, it shines because everybody else is just keeping it from becoming stale or single-minded or one-tracked or something like that. And overall, it was fun. It was not complete, though. Because, yeah, if there is a second season, I can see that it really has to, you know, kind of start addressing different things. Because the things that were addressed and revealed in this as part of, you know, the Zombieland Saga, I guess, while they're not perfectly wrapped up, they're wrapped up enough such that the focus definitely will have to be different for a good second season. And the show seems smart enough to kind of know it needs to do that sort of stuff here, so, you know, if there is a second season of this, it's probably going to be pretty good too. If there's anybody that's curious who my favorite character is, well, I guess, since I can't remember names, it's her. She was great. She was my favorite. So, you know, I actually really enjoyed Zombieland Saga. I actually watched it all over 2 days, so you can tell I really got into it. Loved having it on in the background, and it didn't require digestion as much. It meant that when there were distractions, I was more likely to do it while watching Zombieland Saga and pay more attention to Zombieland Saga and slow down on the other things. So, A Certain Magical Index 3, Part 1. I did not finish all of this. In fact, I should probably figure out. I maybe watched 5 episodes. I guess it started out okay. You know, there's definitely some Raildex mannerisms that I kind of realized, you know, as it keeps going, you're like, oh my god, why are all these people rolling their eyes because guys find women attractive? You know, it usually, Raildex isn't that bad, but it's just kind of weird because I think it felt like it started off on a foot sort of like that. Not entirely. It's weird. The show just goes in weird directions with everything, of course. Then it starts a very stereotypical index sort of story, and then it's about a bunch of different characters. I'd say all the other characters, but it's not even all the other characters because we don't get our main characters, which isn't
bad per se, but it's very... See, the guy that does Raildex really loves giving names to things, and some of those things can be really great. So, I think a good example is the frog-faced doctor. I don't think we actually know his name, because sometimes we hear him referred to as that, and then I think he also is revealed to have a name called Heaven Chancellor or something like that. It's just like, okay, well, I guess it's because he's that good of a doctor, but it's really weird for somebody to give a doctor a name like that. But, you know, this show is full of a lot of stuff like that. So, Mikoto Misaka, or is it Misaka Mikoto? She's, you know, known by like a billion different names. She's the Unstoppable Shock Princess, Railgun, the Ace of Tokyo Dai. You know, they love to give names to characters that go above and beyond whatever they have. And there's definitely this problem where events are happening, you get the impression that they're notable, but you're losing track of how notable it is because it goes through it fast enough that you're like, wait, who was that character who was mentioned before? I don't remember. And this, what's the name of that group? Did I hear the name of that group before? I don't remember, because before the time I've had a chance to process it, here's the name of another group. Oh wait, no, they don't work for that group. They work for this third. What? And it kind of doesn't help that there's this going on where the characters are trying to reach Alistor. And while I'm like 99% sure I remember who Alistor is, there's a part of me that's like, what if I'm remembering that wrong? And so, you know, it's kind of... Season 3 is definitely starting off kind of slipping past the viewers a little bit quickly. I haven't seen if the rest of Season 3 continues to be this bad. It's possible they just wanted to get through this part, because usually they try and keep certain things separate, and that information is important, but it's also detracting from what they want to do in a season of Index, which is focused on Index. Maybe? There's a lot of speculation there, as you can tell. And overall, it's not bad so far. It's just not wowing me at the moment, and that's fine. It's really neat to see... I think they showed at least one additional level 5 finally. I had heard that we had seen who he is, but I don't remember how many years ago that was. And now I guess, while there was a very quick rush through what his powers were and how they maybe possibly worked, I guess we met him. Anyways, the main reason I put that on hold is because I'm being a lazy bum and I have not pre-ordered February's DVDs and Blu-rays yet, but I realized February 4th, coming out on Blu-ray is Isekai Quartet. And now I might have a little more wiggle room, but it's basically a comedic... I don't know if it's correct to call it a spin-off series, because it's not really spun off of any one series per se, but sort of like how you had this thing where you had Attack on Junior High, where you had the Attack on Titan characters set up in a middle school, junior high, yeah, middle school, and that one is intended for comedy. This one is about famous isekai shows. Now, if you don't know, isekai I think is a Japanese word that, well, Sekai is world, so Issei is probably a modification of it. So my guess is it literally translates to something like other world. But it usually refers to people go to another world. And in this case, Quartet should tell you that's 4. It's actually the combination of 4 highly notable isekai shows. That would be ReZero, Overlord, the Saga of Tanya the Evil, and Kona Super. Now the problem is, while I have watched 3 of those, I have not watched Kona Super because that is still not out on DVD Blu-ray. And while I don't think it's coming out next month, it probably doesn't matter, because if it did, timing would interfere with maybe watching Isekai Quartet. So the idea is, as far as I can tell, the characterizations seem not like perfect, because each of the characters has, you know, their own worlds. And sometimes things like Overlord, the reason the show Overlord works is because, as awesome as the characters are, it works because it's about how the world reacts to them, and you kind of watch it to just to see how the world evolves. There was an interesting point a friend made where the 4 isekai that go into this show are not self-insert ones, and I think what he might actually mean is power fantasy, because some of these characters actually, some of the characters that he would have dismissed as that aren't really self-inserts, but they are power fantasy characters, which is kind of a self-insertion, but it's more like, oh, that would be really cool if I went through that. But you're still watching a character making their own thoughts and all that stuff, so it's, you know, I don't know, maybe it is kind of in there, maybe it's not, but I think power fantasy is the better example. And, you know, it's interesting because a lot of these characters are powerful. Well, okay, the ReZero character is not powerful, but that's what makes him interesting, and that's what makes this an example. Most of those are not stories about, oh yeah, these characters are powerful, watch them doing powerful things. ReZero is about, this character is not powerful, watch him struggle and learn and evolve as a character. Like, they don't even make it where he's going to get more powerful and be able to handle this stuff. He learns as a character. It's designed to test his character. Overlord would probably be the one you think would be the closest, but like I said, that one is about how the world is reacting to them, and that's what makes it interesting. It's because you're seeing how they're reacting to the world and reacting to the world reacting to them, but it's really about their impact on the world and not about, oh yes, he's powerful, that's pretty cool. I guess you could consider as an example, a counterexample to that one, something like a Death March Rhapsody, which I actually thought was pretty fun and watchable, because you watch that main character and you're like, man, I would really like to be able to help people out like he does. But it's always about, he's getting more powerful, and it's always focused on him and what he's doing, and the world can change around him, but Overlord, you know, it shifts gear, it changes focus. It's about people talking about, well, who is this person, and blah blah blah, and I don't know. I've gone on about that too long. The Saga of Tanya the Evil is very clearly about Tanya de Gurachov. It's not only just about her being powerful, it's about her being fucking terrifying. I mean, listen to the music of that show. That music tells you that, you know, you kind of begin with this kind of sort of innocent but subtle evil sort of sound, and then it, you know, throughout the series as they make it more and more representative of her impacts on things around her, just how much more evil these things are, even though you sympathize with her and all that stuff. Anyways, I don't know enough about Kona Super to say for certain, but I can tell it's probably not a power fantasy on account of the fact that, you know, I prioritized watching that, so I actually watched the first 3 episodes of it last night on Crunchyroll. This would be like the first time I've watched anything from Crunchyroll, and the first time in a long time I've watched anything streamed as opposed to waiting for it to come out on DVD Blu-ray. And in this case, there's a timing issue, especially since Kona Super has been dubbed forever and nobody's releasing it on DVD Blu-ray for some reason. I don't know why. I'd buy it. They could release it for $800, and, you know, I'm the kind of sucker that would do that. So, long story short, I'm watching Kona Super because I need to understand it, and I can see, having watched the first 3 episodes, I really fucking needed to see it, because I had already seen some clips from High Quartet on YouTube, and so I already kind of knew how, like, Tanya and Einzel Gun from Overlord interacted with each other, so some of the little jokes there. But in order for me to kind of appreciate any other jokes and context they're going to do if they mix and match characters, the Kona Super characters are something. So I had it described to me in a way that left me with the impression that it was a show about a guy who goes into the world, and for all intents and purposes he's a weak nobody surrounded by powerful girls, and it felt like a kind of humiliation sort of show. But then it turns out it's not, because it's really about how they're all huge disappointments. Like, I think every character at some point, except for the new one that was introduced in episode 3, technically the end of episode 2, at some point just kind of seems to have some disgusted face about how disappointed they are in the other characters. Because while the girls are strong, they are hugely eccentrically flawed people. And so far, it's just worked. It's like, I'm trying to think what's good to say. You know, this is one where, you know, he knows he's going into another world and he should be expecting to be like powerful, but he's not. But he did pull one over on the I'm gonna call her the bitch ass goddess that was, you know, responsible for helping him with that, but was, you know, not being a very nice person, hence, you know, the derogatory name. But the show kind of knows that, and it's intentionally playing with that and playing with his expectations, how they're being subverted or opposite of what he expects, while at the same time playing, you know, it plays all directions all at the same time, such that all the characters are just at some point just completely disappoint in everybody else. And it's interesting because it kind of means what I saw they set up was the girls are hugely notable nobodies, and he's just a nobody who seems to be gaining little things that allow him to accomplish nothings that are greater nothings than the great people that surround him, kinda. And their personalities are just all over the place bonkers, but very well defined for each character. So I really did need to see it. These first 3 episodes would actually probably help a lot with these High Quartet, but I should probably watch more to grab more nuance. Especially since I don't know if this will be a character-driven show or not, because it is possible for it to not do that. But I get the impression, based on some of what I've heard, that it will probably do things to progress, even if it's not necessarily in the way I expect. So, 3 episodes of Kona Super. That one's definitely easier to keep watching than Index Season 3, but I haven't given up on Index Season 3 because, first of all, there's a lot more stuff in there. They seem to be talking a little bit more about, I don't remember the main character's name. I want to say Tamago, but no, Tomo Ichigo, was it? I don't think so, maybe? They want to talk a little bit more about his weird power, and so that makes me think that, you know, Season 3 is actually, you know, it's not like it's wasting time. If its problem is it's just going through material too fast, then it's at least good for getting a better building of the Raildex universe and things that they've kind of hinted at throughout the series up to this point. Things that I'm kind of curious about. So, you know, that's stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything else worth noting. I mean, you know, I've continued doing VR chat avatar stuff, although, you know, going back to work and having been back at work for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, some amount of time, you know, I'm still like fuzzy headed. Maybe that's just allergies or lack of sleep or whatever, but, you know, little things are still continuing to happen. Anyways, I think that's everything I had to talk about today. Yeah, I can't think of anything else, so y'all have a nice week.